Welcome, I'm Stephanie Jordan. I am the local food program manager at Sustainable Solano, and I'm super excited to welcome Chantoll Williams of Rasta Mama's Kitchen for our cooking demonstration today. This class is one of many that Sustainable Solano is hosting to raise awareness of specialty crops that are grown in and around Solano County. And specialty crops, if you haven't been with us before, are fruits, vegetables, herbs, and tree nuts. And so Chantoll will be doing a lot with these kinds of vegetables and herbs in her demo today, which features a Jamaican pumpkin curry stew. I will turn it over to Chantoll Williams of Rasta Mama's Kitchen.
Hi everyone, thank you so much for joining me. This is my first time doing a Zoom cooking class, so just bear with me if I fuddle around a little bit, okay? So today we're going to be cooking vegan curry Jamaican, vegan curry pumpkin stew that I absolutely love. And it's just so good for the cold weather, and it makes you feel so warm and toasty and cozy inside. So it's one of my things to make. As I said, as she introduced, I am Chantoll Williams. I'm the owner and chef of Rasta Mama's Kitchen, located in Vacaville, California. I see that there's people joining me from Florida, Idaho, Washington, Oregon, and all over California. This is so exciting. So thank you so much. I love the foodies. You're my best friends because I'm a foodie at heart. But I just want to let you know that I am a caterer, but I couldn't deny people in my family food. I love sharing it so much that I made a menu, a weekly menu, Monday through Saturday, where you can order food from me and it'll be delivered to your house or to your workplace. So don't worry, you get to have my food throughout the whole entire week if you would like. And I also have a menu called Fresh to Frozen, where you can order massive amounts of food, and you can actually place it into your freezer and have it throughout the week or whenever you feel like it, or if you have a party. So I do catering and delivery. I do not have a restaurant because I think this is just who I am. I love catering, I love delivering to people, and I love being in my elements, and that's in the kitchen. And I don't want to be away from my family while doing it because they're the reason why I have this business. With that being said, today I'm cooking in my most favorite place to cook at. I'm at the Vacaville Opera House. I absolutely love this place because the staff is amazing. They're professional, they're kind, and they always take very, very good care of me. Even though I'm working for the bride, for some reason, I feel like I'm the bride because they always take such good care of me and my family, and they love my food and they're so helpful. So if you have any events in mind, they are open. They have come up with clever ways of doing events, micro weddings, for example, or baby showers, but in a very safe, no distance, distance-free, contact-free way. So call Sandra at the Opera House and she'll be able to fill you in with more information. So let's get started. Now, mind you, this is authentic Jamaican cooking. So there's going to be some things that I do that are going to look awkward or different. And it's just a cultural thing in how we prepare food. There will be some terminology that I'm going to use that you may not be aware of, but I will explain in detail what it means, okay? Things you're going to be needing that we're going to be cooking with today to make this recipe, because I know some of you are going to be cooking along with me, which I'm so excited about, is let's start with the spices, okay? You're going to need curry, turmeric, cumin, black pepper, bouillon, garlic powder, bay leaf, bouillon base, which is more like a liquid, thyme, salt, and coconut oil. I have put out a list out there for everyone to know. So go ahead and check that list, and it will be emailed to you, the recipe, so don't worry if you did not catch all that. This actual recipe will be emailed to you. As far as the vegetables go, okay. I know you guys call this a squash, but in Jamaica we call this a pumpkin. So this is why it's a pumpkin recipe, because in Jamaica, this is our pumpkin. Even though you call it a squash, it's a pumpkin. So a pumpkin, or a kabasha squash, ginger, garlic, carrot, potato, and onion. And I have to say, thank you so much, Sue, for providing me with this monstrous thing of a carrot. Look at this. I will be cooking with that carrot today. And as far as the tools go, you're going to need 2 pots, a large one, a small one, a spatula, a stirring spoon. I even have a white stirring spoon, and I'll explain to you why it's important to have a lighter stirring spoon. It's the way you can test the curry. A knife, a grater, peeler, a flat spoon with a flat edge, and measuring. So let's go ahead and get started. Now the first thing when it comes to curry is that a good curry uses a lot of ginger. Not just a wee bit, a lot of ginger. And to make this curry, you actually have to make ginger tea first. So with that being said, what you're gonna do is gonna take some ginger, fresh ginger, get it in your mortar, and you're gonna go ahead and just pound it away. If it goes blind, it's all right. And it doesn't have to be completely smashed up enough. And the reason why you want to smash it up, because it does release more of the flavor, more of the nutrients, besides you just cutting it. Ginger has to be treated a certain way in order for you not only get the flavor, they get all the nutrients as well from it. And it's so good, especially when it's cold and wet outside and people are getting sick. Ginger has so many vitamins and antioxidants and vitamin C, and it's just good for you. So see how I mashed it all up? Go ahead and take this. And you wanted to put in it, already started it, you want to put it in a pot of water, about 4 cups of water. And you're going to let that boil. When it's boiling, make sure you put the lid on top, because not only are you boiling it, you're doing a steeping. You're forcing it to not only boil, but steep. So it makes the ginger tea a lot stronger. Okay? We'll get to that. Next thing you need to do is grab your coconut oil. I use organic coconut oil. You can find it anywhere, massive amounts of quantity. Just go ahead and use your coconut oil. And you're going to take about 4 tablespoons of coconut oil and just place it at the bottom of your pot. And let it just cook down and warm up. While the coconut oil is liquefying, warm it up. You're going to start on your vegetables. Now, if you don't have this particular pumpkin, squash, if you don't have this one, this recipe works really well with butternut squash. So if you don't have this one or you can't find it, you really can't find this one anywhere, which I was surprised. You can use a butternut squash instead. This one is a little tricky to cut because it is so round, so be very careful. What you do is press the tip of it in very hard like that, and then curve your hand down, okay? If you do that, you have a nice line right here where you can follow the cut line, and it keeps it safe so you don't cut off your hand or anything, and then press down. This one is harder. Sometimes it even go harder. But be mindful. See how it goes in? The line here. You just chop it down like that. The first cut is always the hardest cut. Be careful, be patient. But once you've done the first cut, now you have a solid base, and it's just much, much easier to cut it. And these will have to be small cuts or tiny, because all of your spices, all your ingredients are going to be large, okay? After you cut it, go ahead, take a piece. You want to get rid of all of the skin. So go ahead and take your peeler, peel off all of this excess skin. You don't want any of this in your dish because it's extremely hard and it's not edible. Not fun at all. after you're done peeling it, and as you see here, I have some of it chopped up, ready to go. You want to cut nice big chunks. Nothing small. Nice big chunks. Maybe cut that one in half. Nice big chunks. And just cut it in half like that. Next, when it comes to curry, also keep in mind your oil. You don't want to burn your coconut oil. Turn it down really low once it's already nice and soft and everything. Go ahead and take a look. That's about how much coconut oil you're gonna need. Okay? So just keep that on low for now. Now when it comes to the garlic, you're gonna use a whole head of garlic, all of this. I've already peeled my garlic. And you're just gonna do rough chops on it. And the reason why I say rough chops and not really small or dainty is because this is all gonna melt away and make wonderful gravy. So you really don't have to worry about how big it's going to be or how little it's going to be. Just nice rough chops. So you don't have too much of a big chunk. You don't want one that's completely whole. So that's rough chopped. Not too big, not too small. It doesn't have to be fancy. Doesn't have to be precise because this is literally just gonna melt into the gravy, okay? Now for my massive carrot stew, thank you again. Okay, this is huge, so I'm just gonna use this one. But for the recipe, you're gonna need two because well, you don't have soup. I am so sorry, I got a big old carrot. So, and even with your carrots, do not cut them small. You want everything that you cut to be nice and large and big. And the reason for that is because when you are cutting, so with this, I'm just gonna leave them nice and large. Because since they're vegetables and you're making a stew, it will break down. And you don't want it to completely break down because then you just have mush. Nobody wants to have mush. Oh, it's not gonna be good. Just nice big rough chops. Nothing fancy because curry isn't fancy, it's comforting. It's home. It fills your belly, it makes you feel good. That's what curry is supposed to be. Nothing fancy. If you get a fancy curry, I don't know if you should eat it. Okay. Another potato. Like I said before, big chunks, rough chops, nice big pieces. The onion, go ahead and cut up the onion small because the onion is just going to melt away just like the garlic. You don't have to worry about that too much. Now when cutting an onion, as most of you should know, or maybe you know, go ahead and just cut off the top of it. Leave the bottom parts on, just peel off the skin, because this prevents you from having tears and bleeding. If you leave the butt of it on, you actually won't start crying, which is so helpful. And with the onions, you're just going to need 2 white onions. Already chopped one ahead of time. Great. Leave the butt of it on. Like I said before, the onion's going to kind of melt away, so it doesn't have to be precise. Let me get my sprouts off the way here. Okay. And last but not least, ginger. Okay. Now with the ginger, please, please, please do not use a peeler. You're going to waste the ginger if you use a peeler. Grab your spoon, use the edge of it, and just scrape it off. It comes off nice and smooth and clean, and you're not wasting any of it. Ginger is such a healthy root and so beneficial. Why would you want to waste any of it? So go ahead and just peel it off like this. A nice flat edge spoon works really, really well. A thin one, an older one. And with that, you're going to take your grater right here and go to the smallest one here to grate it. And see how large this is? This is about 3 inches, 3 to 4 inches. You're going to use all of it. And there's still more ginger that's going to be needed. So grate all of this down completely. Mind your fingers, mind your thumb, mind your skin. Graters, once you start getting to it and really having fun with it, it's easy for your skin to get caught up and, you know, go with the ginger. I don't know how many times I've done that and regretted it.
Hey, Chantoll.
Yes?
I just sent the ingredient list with the amounts that you sent to me last night with the, you know, quantities of teaspoons and tablespoons, etc.
Yeah.
So there's a question. In some places you have a capital TB, and in other places
means tablespoon.
And
so
then
capital letter TB means tablespoon, lowercase TBS, teaspoon.
Okay, that's what we're wondering. Okay. And then there's another quick question about the amount of ginger that was used. So there's
for the ginger.
For the tea. Mm-hmm.
Oh, for the ginger for the tea, what you're going to use is about 3 inches. I don't go by weight, but about 3 inches of ginger for the tea. And you're going to mash it up. Don't chop it up. Mash it up. Leave the skin on and all, and then place it in the water and let it boil and steep for a while. Okay? That's the first thing you need to start with. So about 3 to 4 inches of ginger you're going to use for the tea, and then 3 to 4 inches of ginger you're going to grind up.
Okay, thank you. That clarifies. I'm going to mute myself.
Now this ginger, the reason why we're putting it on here is because I like ginger to melt into the gravy as well. I'm not a big fan of chomping on a big old piece of ginger while I'm eating, because ginger can be very strong in flavor and spicy and everything. And if you're not aware of it, you think it's a potato, it kind of throws you off a bit. So just grind it up so this also melts into. And don't worry about the strains here. You're not going to be using any of that, so don't worry about that. Okay. So after that, take your hand, scoop out all the excess ginger. There'll be plenty of ginger water and everything. Don't worry about that. Okay. So there's your ginger. All of your ingredients are chopped up and good to go. Let me rinse my hands a bit and then I'll be right back. Okay. Thank you so much. Now we're going to start with our spices. The first spice you always need to start with. Well, let me make this clear, because I don't think many people know this. But when it comes to curry, turmeric, cumin, they are raw spices. They are not spices you can just sprinkle on something or put it on at the very end. These spices need to be cooked. They are raw spices. If you don't cook them, not only is your food going to be missing out on all this flavor, but you're going to be missing out on the nutrients that will bring to your food. And then on top of that, if you use too much of it without cooking it, it's going to taste grainy as if you have sand in your food. So that being said, the first thing you need to do is burn your curry. And when I mean burn your curry, come here. Look at what I'm doing. Take your curry, place it into the oil like this, right? Gonna take your white spoon, or any spoon, but I prefer white. And I'll tell you in a moment why I prefer a white spoon when I'm making curry. There's a little secret that my family taught me, and I'll share it with you in a bit. So go ahead and stir that down. The fire, make sure the fire is not too high because you don't want to blacken your curry. You want to burn it, and burn it means you're cooking it in the oil. So make sure that as you're cooking it, it's not blackening. okay? You're burning it. I know that might be a weird term to use, but that's what we use in Jamaica and other cultures that cook curry. You have to burn it first, which is cooking it in oil, and then go ahead and add the turmeric, the cumin, and mix that all about. Those are the first ones that have to go in because they have to cook the longest. Okay, after adding that, go ahead and add in the garlic powder. And I forgot to tell you the measurement. So when it comes to the curry powder, it's going to be 3 tablespoons. Turmeric, I've changed it because this recipe is going to be going, this particular dish is going to be going to a friend. So turmeric, you really just need 2 teaspoons of turmeric, not 1 tablespoon. 2 teaspoons of turmeric, 1 tablespoon of cumin, 1 tablespoon of garlic powder, and now we're all caught up. And we're gonna go ahead and add in 1 teaspoon of black pepper, mix it all about, and 2 teaspoons of thyme. And it should look like this, like a little bit of a sludge. Right there. That's good. Constant stirring because you don't want to make it blacken or anything. You want to burn it, which is cooking it, but you don't want to blacken it. So constantly stir. Go ahead and add your bouillon. Crumple it up. After you add that, add your single bay leaf, just 1. Add that to the mix as well. Now your salt and your veggie base is going to be put on last. We use salt as kind of like a finisher, okay? Now, your ginger tea should look something like this, okay? It should be yellow, it should be bright, and you're gonna pour your ginger tea into your pot. And that should be about 4 cups of ginger tea, okay? Now you're gonna let it cook for a bit because now you're gonna be cooking the spices. Turn up your heat just a little bit to medium, just to medium. And you want it to simmer and cook for a little bit, okay? Now, the reason why I like using a yellow or a white spoon when I cook curry is because curry, it does stain. So that's why you want to wear black or wear apron or something of that nature because curry can stain. But when curry's done cooking, see how this is a yellow right now? It's a bright yellow, but when curry's done cooking, it makes like a neon yellow. And that's when you know that all the spices, all the ingredients are all melted down, all cooked properly, and cooked and steeped really well. So I like using a white spoon to kind of test the curry. Right now, it's yellow, but it's not a neon yellow, you know? And when it gets there, I'll show you what it looks like. So that's another indicator that you're cooking your curry correctly. Okay. So go ahead and allow that to cook for a bit. Does anybody have any questions? I know the term burning may sound a little different from anybody, but does anybody have any questions about that?
You know, Chantoll, there were some other questions.
Sure.
They're wondering about how many people you're cooking for, like this particular recipe that you're prepping and with those particular ingredients, about how many people would that serve?
This could probably serve 4 to 5 people.
Okay. And then you had a comment earlier about a trick for the onion that reduced tears. Were you leaving the root on or the skin?
You leave the root on. So the butts of the onion where the root is, leave that on. So when you cut it in half, make sure you leave the butts of the onion on where the roots are, peel off the skin and chop it, and you won't have any tears.
Got it. Great.
Works really well. Yeah.
Okay. There's a couple more ingredient questions, which I can ask you now, or if you need to keep going.
Oh no, go ahead, because you have to let it cook for a little bit.
Great.
Let the pot cook up. So go ahead with your questions.
Okay. Someone else is wondering what type of curry powder you're using.
So I use a Jamaican curry powder called Blue Mountain, but honestly, you can use any curry powder that you like. This is a very forgiving dish. I use Blue Mountain curry powder. It's a Jamaican curry, but mind you, if you do use a curry powder and you want it to taste more authentically Jamaican, try to get a Jamaican curry powder. When I use Blue Mountain, there is other curries out there like Indian or Thai, and they're different. They are different. They use different spices in their curry. You want a very basic curry that has turmeric, allspice, black pepper, onion, garlic, fenugreek. Those are usually the typical ingredients in a curry powder. Other cultures add different things, but normally we see allspice and fenugreek. Those are the key things that are usually in a Jamaican curry powder. And turmeric, of course.
Yeah.
And try to go for a very simple curry or a Jamaican curry. And you can order that online. Yeah, you pretty much have to order it online. I usually get it from family in Jamaica, family in Florida, but online you can get it, a Jamaican curry powder.
Okay, Blue Mountain, great. One other question about quantity. Someone's wondering how much is a cube when you're referring to the cube of the veggie bouillon? I mean, I'm envisioning this little, half inch.
When you do a bouillon, we usually in cubes, but if your bouillon is not in a cube, you're using a bouillon base, that's liquid. And if you're using a bouillon base, it is a teaspoon. So 1 teaspoon equals to 1 cube of bouillon base. But I do recommend getting the dry one, which is the bouillon, and getting the liquid one, which is the base. Okay?
Okay.
Any more questions? I'm going to go ahead and check on the curry.
Yeah, go check on your stew. There was one more. Someone was asking if you could use, actually there's 2 more. One question was about ground ginger, if you could use ground ginger, but I think, the consensus among some other people was that the fresh is best.
The fresh is best. I really don't recommend ground ginger because you're missing out on all the nutrients and you're missing out even on the heat of it. No, I just, I'm sorry. Fresh is really best. I mean, it just adds so much more to it. Okay.
Yeah, and then kind of related to that topic on the ginger, there was a question about if you have time, can you boil the ginger tea for a longer period of time to get all the flavor out? Okay.
Oh yes. If you have time, the more you steep it, the darker the liquid's going to become, and the sharper the ginger taste is going to become. It is so good. It is so good. It'll be a rich orange. It'll be a rich yellow, orangey kind of color to it. So a rich deep yellow is what it's going to look like when it's steeped for a much longer time. So yes, by all means, the longer you steep, the darker it will get, the healthier it will be. Now, what you're going to add next to your, because right now we're creating a broth, okay? A big broth.
Oh, here,
so
Jen.
that's what we're creating.
I don't know why I'm unmuted.
So next thing you're going to add is you're going to go ahead and add your ginger. The one you ground up. Go ahead and add your garlic. It smells so good. It smells so yummy. I don't know. When I cook curry, it brings me back so many memories. And the reason why I decided to cook this particular curry, this vegan one, is because when my grandmother JJ, she's the one who taught me how to make curry, along with my sister. She's perfected it. But one of my grandmother's requests was, when I cook any of her food, to make sure that my dad ate, because she was suffering from cancer. She didn't have much longer to live, but she wanted to make sure that my dad was taken care of. And so she taught me everything and kept me close to her side. You know what? I don't regret it because I always got the best of everything first. But with that being said, my father had a medical scare and he could no longer do, meats and everything. So he decided to become a vegan, minus his pastries. He still loves his pastries. So I decided to take a curry dish, the traditional chicken curry dish, and make it into a vegan one with the pumpkin and the other vegetables. And it turned out really well, and he really enjoys it. And he to have a piece of his childhood and a piece of his mother with him. So that's why I love cooking, because it's not just about food, it's about family and memories and moments. And I'm just really glad that all of you are here to join me in this and experience. I wish you could smell this. It smells so good already. And it tastes so good. So now we're gonna go ahead and add the onion. Now with the onion, you're only gonna put in half, but the rest of the ingredients, you're only gonna put in half, okay? So the onion comes in next. Go ahead and just put in half. Remember the nice rough chopped onions, don't worry about it. This particular half is just gonna melt away, becoming the broth of it. I'm gonna leave that half there. Go ahead and and if you're cooking your curry right, it will smell up not only your whole entire house, but if you open up your door, the smell of the curry will go down the street. I don't know how many times I was cooking curry, and then my neighbors would come over and ask me what was going on or what I was doing, and they start trying to place the orders, and I'm like, no, I'm making this for my son, or I'm doing this for his birthday party, or I don't know. It was so funny. And then I had friends come down, go, I can smell your curry all the way down the street. No joke. It was funny. As strangers coming to my door, that was a little awkward. But that's a good sign. If you can smell your curry down the street, then you're cooking it really well. Go ahead and take half of everything, leave the other half, nice big chunks, because you're creating your base, your stew. Go ahead and add in your potatoes, just half. Add in your carrots. Add in your pumpkin squash. Pumpkin. Go ahead and stir that about.
Chantoll, there was another question about fresh turmeric. Would you put that into this stew, or could you? And what kind of effect would you get?
You could use fresh turmeric. You're going to need to use a lot more of it. Well, actually, no. Correction. If you use fresh turmeric, you're going to have to use a lot less of it. Turmeric has a very floral and pungent taste to it. It's easier to control the powdered turmeric just because it's already powdered, it's dried, it's not pungent. Fresh turmeric is very pungent, and you're going to have to use just a little bit of it to make it work. And you can use it. You probably have to use it in a mortar and just ground it up that way, or smash it up that way in a mortar instead of chopping it. So you can use fresh turmeric. I just recommend using much smaller amounts than the powdered turmeric because it is very strong and it has a very floral taste to it. Now, if you come in closer, see how brightly yellow this is right now? This is going to turn into a deep, dark yellow when it's closer to being done, because right now it's still very bright, it's still very raw. It's going to turn into a deep, dark yellow as it gets closer and closer to being done. Go ahead and turn up the heat just a little bit higher, because you want it to be boiling, not with massive bubbles, but you want it to be boiling where you can actually see the bubbles coming. And I'll show you in just a minute when it gets there. So when it starts to look like this, when it's simmering and you see little bubbles, that's where you want it, okay? Just to let it cook down. And then when it's at this point right now, go ahead and cover it with the lid because you want the vegetables to cook down. I actually forgot my lid, so I'm gonna use this pen. So just cover it with the lid and let it just cook down a bit, okay? That should probably take about 5 to 10 minutes, and then we'll be adding more vegetables.
So just to clarify, Chantoll, you put in part of your vegetables.
I only put in half of the vegetables.
Half of
so
them.
only put in half, because at this stage, the first half is going to cook down so much that you're not even going to see it. And it's going to turn into a nice stew, a nice gravy. But I don't like my food to be all one note. I don't like it to be all mushed up. So I go ahead and I put in the rest once the actual vegetables have softened. Once the vegetables have softened, the carrots, the potato, the pumpkin, once those have completely softened, I'll stir it up a couple more times, and then I'll add in the rest of the vegetables. So just add in the first half of the vegetables.
Okay, thank you for that.
Oh yeah.
We
Do you
have
any
another
other questions?
Yes, there's a great question here about ginger and Jamaican food. So someone was just noticing that there's a lot of ginger going into this particular recipe, and they're wondering if the ginger flavor, kind of this particular strong ginger flavor, is typical of Jamaican curries in general, or is this more specific just to this recipe and this curry that you're making today?
No, it's pretty typical to Jamaican curry. They usually use a lot of ginger to build up the flavors, to build up the nutrients. And if you look at the Jamaican culture, our food is actually quite healthy. We use a lot of ginger, a lot of turmeric, a lot of garlic, and the way we prep and treat our food helps it to release the nutrients. So it helps our skin, it helps our digestive system, it helps our energy level. So that's the way my grandmother taught me how to cook, and my sisters and my mother, is that you treat the ginger in a certain manner, not only to get the flavor, but also to get the full nutrients of it. So a lot of Jamaican food is quite healthy because the way they treat their food, we use coconut oil instead of like typical vegetable oils, things of that nature. So when it comes to curry, Jamaican curry, they use a lot of ginger.
Okay, thank you. There's another question. Is there a certain smell to note when you're cooking down the curry? There's so much going on in there. I'm not sure what you would, it probably smells fantastic.
Oh, yeah. Actually, it does smell really good. It smells amazing. But as far as the certain notes, okay. When you're done, when your curry is close to being done, I don't know if this makes sense, but I'm going to try to have it make sense. It smells more rounded. It doesn't smell so sharp. Right now, you smell the curry, it smells good, but it still smells very strong, very pungent, very sharp. When it's close to being done, the sharpness leaves and it smells more rounded, and it smells like everything is mixed in the middle, mixed together. It smells more like a full gravy type of smell, okay? So it shouldn't be as sharp of a smell to it. The ginger should mellow out more, the turmeric and the curry should all have more of a mellow, complete smell to it. Does that help? That's what I smell.
Right. I think so. And then someone is wondering if you've added the chicken broth yet.
No. So
Okay.
in this particular recipe, you can use, in this one, this is a vegan recipe. You can get the vegan chicken broth. Now, with that being said, you have an option of using the veggie bouillon or the vegan chicken broth. Those two are interchangeable. So you can either use the veggie bouillon or the vegan chicken broth, and it's the same amount. So with the veggie bouillon, it's just 1 cube. With the chicken vegan broth powder, you use just 1 teaspoon. So
Right.
this particular one, I just use the veggie bouillon. But in other dishes, other vegan dishes, you want to have more of a chickeny type of taste without having the chicken, go ahead and use the vegan chicken bouillon. 1 teaspoon, 1 to 2 teaspoons is just fine.
Okay, and someone's asking the same question I asked you yesterday, which is regarding to the veggie bouillon. Somebody's wondering, can you use veggie broth?
No, you can't use veggie broth because you're already creating a broth. So do not use a veggie broth because you're literally creating your own broth. You want to use the bouillon, or you want to use the bouillon and the base, which is this liquid one, the veggie base.
And this makes sense now that I'm seeing you, because you've done the broth with the ginger tea part, and so your liquid is done. So now you're kind of fortifying that liquid with these flavors to build the flavor layers. Okay, that's, yeah, I think that's all the questions for right now. Let's see here. There are some people cooking along and they're wondering if you could go a little slower. I want to check in with Jen. Jen Pack is, or is that, I don't know who that is out there. Am I? Somebody's cooking with you.
I'm glad you're watching. So this is actually supposed to be covered. So go ahead and catch up with me. If you have any questions, this is the perfect time to ask me those questions. If you want me to show you anything else, because I'm not going to go any further for a bit. So if you have any other questions, or if you need to demonstrate anything else, this would be the perfect time, because right now you're just cooking the actual vegetables until they're nice and soft. I forgot my lid. So I have to compromise. Work with me, okay?
It works great. Someone else is wondering if you put the bay leaf in yet when you did those others. Yes.
The bay leaf went in with all the other spices in the very beginning. If you haven't put in your bay leaf yet, go ahead and just put that in right away.
And you know, I've noticed that a lot of farmers right now are selling fresh bay leaves. And so, you know, I think those could be used too as, as opposed to the dried.
Fresh bay leaf is amazing, and it's so good, and it has wonderful oils that it releases into the food. Make sure you use a smaller amount of it though. Dry is always less potent, fresh, and it's always stronger. So when it comes to a bay leaf, go ahead and just use one smaller leaf. Yes, definitely.
And Chantoll, someone is saying the sound isn't too great. There's like a windy sound on the microphone. So I'm not sure what's going on. Maybe it's the hood.
Does that help? Yes?
I think so. Yeah.
Okay, but can you still see me, because I had to turn off one light?
I can see you pretty good. Yes. Oh yeah, I got the response. Yes, thank you. Okay.
Okay, good. So right now you're letting your vegetables cook, and it's gonna get nice and soft, and then we'll add on our other vegetables. A little bit more about my family and about my business. Honestly, the reason why I started this business is because I really enjoy cooking, and I really enjoy feeding people, and I really enjoy eating. And I just started giving in I guess my love language is just to feed people and just say, if I like you, I'll feed you. And that's a good thing. If I don't like you, you're not getting nothing from me, you know. But if I like you, I'll feed you. So that's really my love language. I just love cooking. And so I started this business, and I started it really small, with just making patties. Patties, oh, I grew up on patties. And my grandmother taught me how to make the inside of a patty and everything, but never the crust. And I had to figure that out, because she left me the recipe, but the recipe was in patois, and I had to figure that out. So after figuring it out, I made my own patties, and I just kind of gave them away and sold a little bit, and people kept on asking for more and more dishes. And so I just kept on going back to my grandmother's recipe book, going back to my mom being in her kitchen, and then my sister. Oh my word, my older sister, Curry. So bless her heart. She is so fiercely passionate about our family's food. You just don't mess with the recipe. And if you don't do it right, she'll correct you until you do it right. And that has blessed me so much. She has taught me well and kept me on course. So I love her greatly for it. So with that being said, I'm always in the kitchen, and it's just my happy zone. You'll see me dancing, singing, and doing my thing in the kitchen if you're here with me. If I could, I would turn on some music and we'll just be having at it right now. But then you guys may hear me, and then I'll just be lost. I forget about it. Let me go ahead and check on the vegetables. Now, what you want to do is you want to test, and you want to make sure your spoon can actually go through the vegetables, especially the carrots. If they're still too hard, then it's not ready yet. The potato's still hard, the carrot's still hard, so mine is not ready yet. I'm going to go ahead and turn up the heat just a little bit. Put it to a medium high. Now it's boiling. Put the lid back on. And make sure to give it a good stir to make sure that nothing is sticking to the bottom. Okay, and completely cover it. Because you don't want to reduce it just yet. You just want it to cook the vegetables, okay? So this should help it cook a little bit faster.
Chantoll, there's another question about the veggie soup base. Someone just wants some more clarification on that. They want to know, is it like the green veggie soup base, is it a liquid version of a bouillon cube, or does it have a different flavor? If you could expand on that, I think that'd be helpful.
So the bouillon cube is literally just dried up vegetables, compressed, compact, with a little bit of seasoning. And let me grab one real quick. It's usually in one of these containers, pressed, compact, with a bit of seasoning and everything in it, okay? So this is your dried one. So it's all dried, and if you look closely, you can actually see some vegetables like the carrots and everything else in there. So it's dried. Now the base, the reason why I like adding the base, because it's liquid form, but it's more of a gravy and it has a richer taste to it. These are just adding, with Jamaican food, we build and build and build on flavor. So even though I wouldn't want to just put this one in water and just use this by itself, it's just not enough flavor. This one has additional flavor to it, and it's more of a gravy. And it also rounds out the flavor. This one, you need a little bit more to round out the flavor. That's why we also do the base. Does that help? I hope that helps, because the bouillon base really just helps round out all the flavor. Vegetable base.
I think so. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Another person's wondering if this would be, and I'm guessing the answer is yes, it would be excellent, I think, made one day and then eaten the next day.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah,
let
the flavor.
Yes, that's the best thing about curry. It just gets better and better as days pass. And the reason being is because with all the spices that you're putting into it, all the seasonings you're putting into it, it continues to build. It doesn't just rest and just stays there. It continues to build, and all the flavors kind of mellow and mingle together even better. So I love making a big old batch of it and having it for leftovers or the day after. You can even freeze curry, warm it back up, and it'll still taste good. So curry is perfect for cold weather, for winter, or if you just want to cuddle up. It's just get some rice, get some curry, and oh, it's so good. So yes, this is a dish that just keeps on giving. It really is. Is everybody caught up? Is everybody to this point where I'm at?
I'm gonna guess yes. I haven't seen any slow down messages yet, so I think we're
okay. So we're gonna go ahead.
Yeah.
Okay. So at this point, your vegetables should be nice and tender, and you should be able to push your spoon through all of them. All the carrots, all the potatoes, make sure you stir. And everything should be nice and soft, okay? If it's not nice and soft, continue to put the lid back on and let it cook down even more. Okay, I'm gonna turn down the heat just a little bit to medium. Oh, there goes the fire. Medium low. And it's okay to press your spoon through it because truly you're creating the actual broth of it, the base of it. So it's okay for these to just melt away and just add more flavor. Oh my goodness. And as you can see, the color is starting to get a bit darker too. It's not so much of a bright yellow. It's starting to get a little darker yellow, a little browner. Just make sure you check all your vegetables. Stir, stir, stir. Okay. So now we're gonna go ahead and add in the rest of your vegetables. Add in all the pumpkin. Actually, correction. Give me 1 second. Go ahead and look. Okay, now at this point, once your vegetable has all broken down, not broken down, but have become very soft, you're gonna go ahead and add in 2 cups of just plain water. Because believe me, this is gonna get nice and thick. We're not gonna add any flour or any starches beyond the potato, okay? So this is gonna get nice and thick. So go ahead and add in 2 cups of water. And don't worry, you're not diluting the flavor by any means. Go ahead and stir and add in the rest of your vegetables.
All right.
Go ahead and stir.
Chantoll, while you're doing that, I just want to let everyone know that I posted the link to the survey. And if everyone could please jump on over there and fill it out, that would be so much appreciated. As I said, it helps us a lot with our reports back. And if you have any issues, let me know accessing it. And I will also probably send this out along with the recipe to all people who registered on Eventbrite, just so you have all the final, documentation, recipes, survey links, all of that good stuff. And I'll also include a link to Rasta Mama's Kitchen, which is Chantoll's restaurant or catering operation. Yeah, sorry.
Now I am a caterer, but I also deliver food.
Yes.
Yes. At this point, you're gonna go ahead and add your vegetable base. And you're gonna need about 2 teaspoons of vegetable base. And remind you, this is to round out the flavor, to help take away some of the sharpness of the other ingredients. So put in 2 teaspoons of vegetable base.
Chantoll, there was a question about the more questions, I should say, about the bouillon and the base and all of that. So someone was commenting that a lot of the bouillon that they have found has additives, and so they're reluctant to use that. And so they're wondering if they can just, make the soup, just use it with the broth that you're creating with all of these vegetables without the bouillon cubes, or is there some way to replace the bouillon flavor? I mean, I know it probably has a little bit of salt, but what do you think?
So the bouillon that I particularly use is actually organic, so it doesn't come with any additives to it. My father, being a vegan, his taste buds have gotten really sensitive, and he's picked up on MSG and things of that nature. So this is actually not only a vegan dish, but it's an organic dish. But there is bouillon out there that is organic. I just can't show you the brand that I'm using because I haven't gotten permission from the actual company to show their items. As far as using it without, well, here's what you can do. Go ahead and grab a bouillon that you're familiar with. Look at the ingredients. Chop it up really, really fine. boil it, and you can even blend it to make it really fine, to make that into kind of like a puree or paste, and you can use that. So that's one compromise. If you really don't want to purchase your own bouillon, go ahead and look at the back of it and get the ingredients from the back of it. Boil it down and make it into a paste, and then use that as your own personal bouillon and just leave that in the refrigerator so you can use it whenever you would like. So that's one way you can do that.
Okay, thank you. There's another question about the garlic and the onion. So they're just noting that all the garlic was added earlier and the onion was divided into 2 parts, like the rest of the vegetables. Is that correct?
Yes. So the garlic was added at the very beginning with the ginger. So after I placed all the spices in there for it to blacken, well, to burn, right, I placed the ginger in first, and then I placed the garlic in. The reason why I placed the ginger in as well as the garlic is because I want those to melt down. Ginger is a root. And you saw when I was grinding it, it had all these threads to it and everything like that. Ginger is just naturally has all these threads to it. And if you don't cook ginger down, you can actually taste those threads and they'll get stuck in your teeth. But if you cook it down fast, cook it down first, it kind of melts into the soup. Same with the garlic. Go ahead and put that in because you want that to melt into your soup and not just chomp on big old chunks of it or anything. It just becomes the broth. It becomes liquid. It just melts into it. So as for the onion, I only wanted to build up to go ahead and build up the base with the onion. So I just needed half of that. And the other half is going to keep it a little bit sharper so you can still taste it. And go ahead and put the lid back onto your pots once you've added your other vegetables. And we're going to sit there and let it cook for a little bit. So the only seasoning that's left is your salt. And we typically put this in at the end. So we're going to let this cook down. We're going to let this boil for a little bit with the lid on. And then you're going to need your trusty spatula for the rest. So I hope all of you have your spatulas ready. And you're going to be needing that. It was pounded into my head how important a spatula is when making curry, thanks to my sister. I can see her rolling her eyes right now. But it is needed, and I'll explain to you why a spatula is very important to making proper curry. Oh, and if any of you are still interested in catering, I do offer catering. I know that times are crazy right now, but I still do offer caterings and I still do events. I do drop-off catering where I make everything for you and I'll just drop it off at your door or your place of work. And I also do cater events. I have catered events where we had masks, gloves, social distancing, the food was sealed and protected. So I do still do cater and I still offer that. So if any of you are interested, please check out my Facebook post and also my webpage at therastamamakitchen.com and check out the events there and sign up for any catering. And any other people who just don't want to leave your house because the weather is just too cold, look at my fresh and frozen menu. You can order 10, I just finished about 20 dishes, 20 meals for one family because they just had a baby. It's too cold. They don't want to be out, you know, expose the baby to possibly COVID or things of that nature. So I made her about 20 dishes and just had them all properly sealed in reusable, microwavable containers. And they loved it. And they were able just to go ahead and put it in the freezer, pull out their Jamaican food when they were hungry, and they were well taken care of. And the baby's just so cute.
That's a great idea. Chantoll, someone wants clarification on when the ginger tea went in, and I responded, I think it went in after you did the burning of the spices. Was that correct?
That is correct. So you want your ginger tea to cook. That's the very first thing you need to do is chop up your ginger, pound your ginger, put it in the water, let it boil in 4 cups of water. And then after you're done burning your spices, go ahead and put your ginger tea in there.
Okay. And just to let you know, it's 3:06. We still have 28 people on here with you. I don't know how many are cooking, but how much more time do you think you'll need?
Probably, I want to say probably 15 more minutes. Okay. It's just cooking down. After the vegetables have softened, we're just going to cook it down and then it should be done.
Okay, great. In the meantime, another question has come in. If you wanted to add some protein to this, could you add chickpeas or maybe some other kind of bean, or do you have another recommendation?
So you can add chickpeas. You can do chickpeas. You can do butter beans. I love butter beans. Butter beans are very filling, very satisfying, very large. So butter beans is actually would work better for this dish. Instead of chickpeas, I would do butter beans.
Okay. That sounds good. Someone is asking, burning or cooking down? I think you're cooking it down. You're not. The burning was just in the beginning with the spices, right?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Someone else is asking, are lima beans butter beans? And I would say no, those are two different things. Limas are small and green. Yeah, the butter beans are larger and they're white.
They're large and they're white and some of them are even yellow, but butter bean would be better. Not lima bean. Lima bean would change the flavor of this dish. Butter beans will not change the flavor. It would. I don't actually add to the texture, but wouldn't change the flavor, and you don't want it to change the flavor.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Right.
So after your vegetables are softened, the ones you just put in, the very last ones you just put in, after those are softened, what you're going to do is you're going to take off the lid. You're going to put your food on medium high, and you're going to let it boil down. Okay? You're going to let it boil down, reduce. And when it's reducing, here's the thing. This is why the spatula is so important. Since you are working with vegetables, you don't want to break up the rest that you just put in. You take your spatula every so often and go around the whole entire pot. And just make sure you scrape the bottom of the pot. Be gentle and just move it along. And try not to break it up. As it reduces more and more, the broth itself is going to become very thick. And that's when you really need to scrape the bottom of your pot. And just scrape like this. Don't just scratch it. You're going to turn it like this. But you need a spatula to do this. Do not do this with a spoon because it'll just break everything up. And then everything will be mush. And curry is not supposed to be mush. At least not Jamaican curry. It's not supposed to be mush. But go ahead and let that reduce. Put it on high. It's supposed to be boiling like this. Let it pop. Let it sizzle. Mind you, curry does stain. If you have a white oven or a white countertop or anything like that, don't worry, you'll get curry on there. Just use bleach, it'll take it out. Just let bleach sit on it for a bit and it'll take it out. If you're wearing white gloves, I'm sorry, now they're yellow.
Chantoll, we have a couple other questions that have come in. So one person is wondering, if you were to add the beans, at what point would you add the beans?
At the very end. So when it comes to cooking, it depends. If there are beans in a can and they're already in the can, that will add them to the end. So when you're boiling like this, I would probably add them when it's a little bit more reduced, because the beans in a can, they're already fairly soft. And if you add them in the beginning, you won't see them. They'll just be broken down completely. But add them when it's reducing like this. I will add it normally at this stage. I would add the beans.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you. Another question is, how would this be served? And I'm thinking the question is, with rice, with a bread, like what's the accompaniments here?
Okay. So you have many choices of how to serve curry. You could do over plain rice, which is very comforting as well. You can do it over fried plantains. You could do it with, I have seen someone do with mashed potatoes. I haven't tried that personally, but I have seen my friends just do it. I gave her a bowl of curry and she just put it with mashed potatoes and she enjoyed it immensely. You can also do it with rice and peas, which is a Jamaican dish. It's coconut rice and peas. And you can also do it in a bread bowl. So curry is very versatile. You can put it on any type of starch and it's so good. But normally you put it with rice, fried plantains, boiled green bananas. But usually those types.
Okay. And have you added the salt yet?
No, not yet.
Okay.
So the salt is still here. I'm gonna let it reduce just a little bit more before I add the salt. And the salt is more like a finishing. It kind of rounds out everything, brings the flavors all together. And I always put it at the end, closer to the end. Go ahead and check your curry as it's going down. Scrape the whole sides like this, and then start going into the middle. Scrape the very bottom of it. And let it continue to reduce. And as you can see, the darker the curry was, because before it was a bright yellow, but as you can see, it's getting into a much darker yellow. That means the color, the flavors are mixing together. So good, and it smells so lovely. And honestly, this is a great dish for anybody who's feeling ill. This is really a great dish for anybody who's feeling ill. It is full of so much nutrients, and it has so much vitamins in it, and it's really even good for your sinuses. Like if you make the ginger extra strong, it's very good for your sinuses. So this is a very good dish for anyone who is ill, who is feeling under the weather. It is an anti-inflammatory naturally. When your body's ill, a lot of your organs, a lot of your cells get inflamed, and that's one reason why you're ill. But this is naturally an anti-inflammatory dish. And there's lots of vitamins and nutrients in it. So this is perfect for the season, because if you're sick, feeling under the weather, perfect, absolutely perfect.
I have another question, Chantal. This is actually my question. I was my brain was wandering over to the idea of sweet potatoes. Not really to replace the pumpkin, but I'm wondering about putting them in place of the white potatoes. I mean, it would kind of bump up that, that flavor, but on the other hand, maybe that would take away from the pumpkin flavor too much. What's your thought on that?
I wouldn't, if you add sweet potato, I would use just very little if you wanted it, because it will make the dish a bit sweeter. You need the potato for the starch. You need the potato for the thickening. Sweet potato doesn't thicken as well as regular starchy potato does. It's white potato.
Yeah.
So you can add a little bit of sweet potato, but not too much. I would probably say just half a cup, maybe even a cup of sweet potato to make it sweeter, just to add more nutrients to it. But I wouldn't take it out as a replacement.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I'm scanning for other questions here. Let's see. People were appreciating the bean discussion here.
Oh yeah, definitely. Being a vegan is a challenging diet. It really is. And I'm sorry, being a vegan does not mean that you don't eat good food. That's the one thing I just refuse to let my dad do, is become a vegan and just not eat good food. You can be a vegan and have amazing, very flavorful, very healthy, nutritious food. And you can still have plenty of Jamaican food. Speaking of Jamaican food, pretty much everything on my dish, if you go to my webpage, anything meat-wise you see, I can make it vegan. And gluten-free. I actually have a gluten allergy, so I'm very capable of making any dish gluten-free and also vegan-friendly. I had to take my father in consideration. Go ahead and check your soup again. And as you stir it, you can actually feel how thick it's getting. And remember, you don't want to just stir it about like this, because you'll break it up too much. Go ahead and fold. You want to fold, and make sure as you're folding, you're scraping the bottom of it, and make sure you scrape the very edges of it as well.
Okay, while you're doing that, I'm going to, let's see if I can do this here. I'm going to put the link to your website here in the chat also, as you were talking earlier about your catered dishes. Okay, so that's now out there. And then we have two more questions. And then let's see here. Okay, Tumor, one is, what would you pair as a beverage with this dish? And I don't know if we're talking about an adult beverage or a different kind of beverage.
Well, can you ask them if they an adult beverage?
Yeah, I don't know. Emily Thompson, are you still out there? You want to, oh. Let me see if I can get you to, here, let me see if I can find you here and I'll unmute you just a second. Okay. I think I just unmuted you, or I asked you to unmute.
Hi.
Hi, Emily.
Hi. I would totally be open for either or. I happen to have an adult here and a non-adult.
Okay. So personally, what I have mixed this with, and when I'm eating it, a nice light beer will go really well with this dish. You don't want anything too heavy because it's already a very flavorful type of dish. You don't want anything too heavy to knock out the flavors. So a very light beer will go really well with this. Probably a white wine, not too fruity. A dry white wine will go really well with this if you wanted to go the wine route. So a dry white wine, a light beer. As far as non-beverage, a non-alcoholic beverage, I would say, I don't want anything too sugary either. Probably like a simple tea would go really well with this. Or sorrel. Have you ever heard of sorrel? Sorrel is like a Jamaican drink. It's made from hibiscus flowers. I'll just share with you. You take hibiscus flowers, steep it, make it into a tea, add a little bit of ginger, some sugar, and that's pretty much it. And it comes into this bright red, colorful tea. It's really healthy for you. It's great for the kids because it also is very relaxing. It lowers your blood pressure. It's very healthy, full of vitamin C. I know a lot about but that's called sorrel. And if you guys are interested in learning how to make that particular tea, let Stephanie know. Maybe I'll come back next month and show you how to make that particular tea. And it's really good for you, and it's really healthy, and it makes you relax and just tasty. Does that help?
Yeah, thank you, Chantal.
You're welcome.
We've got a question about the potato. They're wondering on the white potato, is it the softer one, which is used for mashed potatoes? Like a russet is what I'm thinking they're asking about, or the harder one, which is used for boiling and baking? Well, I don't know. To me, you'd have like red potatoes and then there's Yukon Golds. So to me, those are a little firmer. And then I feel like maybe the russet would be the softer one.
So before I answer that question, make sure you stir your pot again. Scrape it because it's going to be nice and thick. Go ahead and turn everything over. Turn down your fire to a medium, because I had my fire on high and I just turned it down to probably medium. Okay, but see how it's getting nice and thick? Okay, so make sure you do that. As far as potatoes goes, you do not want a rustic potato. The potato I use is either a Yukon yellow or a white potato, but definitely not a rustic one where you would bake with or make mashed potatoes out of. Use either a Yukon yellow, Yukon Gold, or a white potato. Not a red one. That one's too soft and too creamy.
Okay, thank you. All right, people are saying they're interested in learning how to make the tea. So we'll have to talk. We'll chat about that for another time. Okay. All right, so just to give you a time check, it's 3:20.
Well, actually, it's actually almost pretty much done. So you're just gonna keep on reducing it. And as you're reducing it, do not leave it alone. This is not the time to do that because you'll burn it up.
Okay.
So make sure you turn it. And this is pretty much the end of it. So you're just reducing it. Let me go ahead. And since it's at this very ending, it's pretty thick, go ahead and add your salt. Nice and thick. Just turn, don't stir. Let it continue to reduce. Now, some may like it at this level where it's a little bit more soupy. I actually like it to reduce even more because I like it over rice and I like it over green banana. So I like it to kind of stick to each other. So usually I let it reduce a little bit more. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. That is so tasty. Oh, my sister wants one too. Hold on.
I'm wondering, does anybody else out there who's been cooking, do you have a spoonful or a bowl to show Chantal? We want to see what you guys have been doing.
Yeah, I would love that.
Okay, let me take you off spotlight and I'm going to try to change this to
That's good.
go
It's
to
so good.
gallery view.
Sorry. Okay, another thing you have to know about me is I dance a lot when I cook. And then when I get really good food, I do a little happy dance. It's just something I do a lot. Remember, don't leave your stew. Go around the edges. Take your spatula and turn. Because if you burn up the bottom, oh man, you've ruined it, you know? All that time and all that precious flavors ruined at the bottom of your pot.
All right, I see some stews out there. That's great.
Ooh, let me see.
I don't know, you might be able to see it on the recording or you need to go to gallery view. So
I'm so excited that you guys are cooking with me. That's
here,
so much fun.
Michelle, I'm gonna just not pronounce these names right, but there's a Michelle Gadow, I think, or Gadow, who has a soup. There's Jen Pack, who has a soup. There's
Nice.
Stew, I should say Stew. I'm gonna use my right terminology
Yes.
here. Yeah, those are two that I see off the top of my head. So right on. Good job, people.
Have you ladies tasted it yet? You just added in the salt, turn it over, and go ahead and taste it. Now I say this could feed 4 to 5 people, but honestly, curry tastes so good that sometimes people are greedy. So you might want to make a double pot.
You're right. Okay, one last question, and then I think we might need to wrap this up. Well, someone would love a gumbo recipe, so maybe you can send that. If you have a gumbo recipe, you can send it and I'll distribute that. And then the other question is, how do you prepare your green bananas to go with this?
So green bananas, okay, a green banana is a unripened banana. So you go to the grocery store, they have the yellow bananas and the very unripened ones, the ones that are very young. Very, very dark green is the best. What you would do is you take a green banana, slice it down the back, leave the skin on, chop off the top, chop off the bottom, cut it in half, and you will boil it. After, when it's done boiling, the skin of the banana will turn black. Once the skin of the banana turns black and easy to peel off, that is when the banana is done. You add a bit of salt to it, and it tastes like, for those who might have a nitrate allergy, and you can't have potato, green banana is a good substitute because it tastes pretty much of it like a potato. When it's that green, it tastes pretty much like a potato with a hint, just a hint of sweetness, just a hint. But that's how you would cook it. You would boil it. Or you can steam it as well. But same effect, once the skin turns a nice dark black, it is ready to be eaten. Don't forget to stir your pot. Okay, now come in close. This is how thick it should look. Okay. Nice and thick is a nice thick stew. You still can reduce it if you want to a little bit more. But you still have nice, beautiful, big chunks of vegetables in there. As you can tell, if you look right here, that's all broken down vegetables. That's what makes your base, and it's just popping away.
Mm-hmm.
It's gonna be a very messy dish at times, but it's so worth it. It is so worth it.
That looks amazing.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
That's pretty
so
much the end of that.
All right. Enjoy your Jamaican pumpkin curry stews, everybody. Thank you so much, Chantal.
Thank you so much for cooking with me. My name is Chantoll Williams, the owner chef of Rasta Mama's Kitchen here in Vacaville. If you have any questions, go ahead and contact me at therastamamakitchen.com or even call me or text me at 707-592-2236. If you're hungry, let me know. I'll feed you, okay?